Good afternoon, everybody. The meeting will begin in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joey Henderson, the Vice Chair of the Community Action Board. I want to welcome you this morning and hope you're doing well. Our Chair, Rosa Hill, is on her way. The three of us actually ran into a rain burst that kind of stalled traffic a little bit. But we're going to go ahead for the sake of time to keep moving forward here. And by the time Ms. Hill gets here, we'll have a quorum. At this time, we'll go ahead and do the roll call, starting with the individuals that are present for this meeting.
Good afternoon, Derek Guida, Social Services.
Sharon Gordon, Social Services.
And again, I'm present, Joey Henderson, Vice Chair, representing the Honorable Hagan, Commissioner Hagan. And also we'll go to our virtual visitors, beginning with, who do I see up there? Miss Noreen, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Noreen Copeland Miller, CAB Board member, Chair of the Membership and Nominating Committee, representing the West Central Region Advisory Council in the low income sector.
Thank you. Ms. Cedano.
Good afternoon, Marcia Cedano, representing League of United Latin American Citizens and Chair of the Public Information Committee.
Thank you. Ms. Hill. Ms. Hill? Okay. Okay, she is en route. I see her name up there. She probably is just listening and unable to handle her phone, but let's go ahead and go to staff. Ms. Mistrada.
Afternoon, this is Kelly Mistrada, Social Services.
Ms. Gillis.
Good afternoon, Maria Gillis with Social Services.
And then we have our reporter, Andrew Mays, is with us as well. Did I miss anyone?
I think you got everything, Mr. Henderson. And Ms. Ziegler is in a meeting at the moment, but she will be joining us as soon as her meeting concludes. She wanted me to let everyone know.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And again, thank you everyone for being here. Mr. Thomas, do you mind giving us a invocation?
Of course, Vice Chair, thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask you just bless this meeting as we're going about the business of the community today. We ask, dear Father, you just watch over all of us as we deal with the adversity and challenges that we're facing, not as a country, but locally here in Hillsborough County. We ask that all hearts and minds be about the business of serving others. These are blessed me, I say, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And if you would, please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have a flag present? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'll just go ahead and read our mission statement, which is the Hillsborough County Community Action Board partners with community stakeholders to stabilize and empower vulnerable individuals and families to achieve self-sufficiency through advocacy and essential services. You all should have received a copy of the agenda from Mr. Guida. Are there any objections or changes to the agenda at this time? Being that there are none, we shall move forward with our standing committee reports. And we will jump down, actually we'll go to bylaws committee. I did not have a meeting with regards to the bylaws, but I will entertain any questions or concerns at this time with regards to our bylaws. Okay, being that there are none, let's go ahead and jump down to Mr. Thomas with regards to the budget and finance. And as soon as, before you start, Mr. Thomas, if there's anything to be voted on, As soon as Ms. Hill does arrive, we will revisit that and to make that vote. Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Vice Chair. This is William Thomas, City of Plant City, Budget and Finance Chair. We did meet and reviewed over the direct services budget as well as the CARES Act budget. As those who were in attendance would note, I'm a little over the top sometime, but again, it's just being physically responsible. So I always try to make sure I ask the questions that others don't want to ask. But the good news per staff is that we are going to expend all of the funds that are with the deadline for this, the day after tomorrow, for this past fiscal year. So the good news is that all the funds have been expended. There won't be any remaining funds. There will be a request by staff regarding just to legitimize by vote some movements that had to be made to ensure that all the funds were spent and met and addressing the needs. Other than that, I have no further to report as we close that book and then dive forward into the 21-22 as well as the CARES Act funding, which we'll be diving into after we close out this year's direct services, client services. That's all I have, Vice Chair.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Thomas. Out of curiosity for some, probably, with regards to the CARES funding, is that CSBG dollars?
Yes, Vice Chair, that is correct. The way I was verbalizing it was what do we have a judiciary responsibility to oversee as a community action board, and was explained and reiterated that the direct client services as well as the CSBG CARES funding are the two categories that we are responsible for being prudent to observe and work with staff on.
Awesome.
So yes, that is correct, Vice Chair.
Awesome. Thank you. All righty. With that, we will go ahead, and I did not see Ms. Anderson. She wasn't on virtually, and maybe we'll be able to come back to her. Let's go down to our Public Information Committee. Ms. Cedano?
Yes, Vice Chair. The Public Information Committee met on March 8th, and we discussed information on the scholarships. And from March 8th, there was 29 applications that were received. 20 were approved at the time. 18 of the applications were for a 4-year institution and 2 for a 2-year institution. One of the application was denied due to the criteria of the technical school, vocational school. Then we had 5 new applications. Out of the 20, there were 5 new applications and 15 returning. And I'm not sure what the numbers is today. I think maybe Sharon or Derek, someone will give us a updated list as to how many. As you know, the initial deadline for the applications is March 31st. And I'm not sure if there's something that if we're going to extend the application deadlines if we haven't reached many applications to date, or what our next steps will be. Hopefully, we can discuss that today and come up with a motion to whether extending it or figure out what the next steps will be if we have to reach our numbers of applications.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cedano. Ms. Gordon, would you like to respond?
Yes, as of today, we've received 46 applications and 33 of those applications have been approved pending their submission of their fall enrollment letters. So if these students follow through with providing their enrollment letters, then we'll have 33 so far. We do recommend extending the application deadline, given that so far, based on what has been tentatively approved, $140,000 is what we estimate so far if the students follow through. So we do recommend extending the application deadline date, because the deadline date is actually the 31st. So we would need a vote by the executive committee to be ratified later by the full board.
Did you, Ms. Gordon, did you have a date in mind?
Last
Right.
year we extended it to April 13th, and let me see what date that falls on. I would say possibly extending it to April 16th.
And Sharon, I do apologize. Could you tell me how many applications were received? I do apologize. I didn't have a pen at the time so I could jot down these numbers, or you could email it to me.
Yeah, it's 46 total. We received 33 tentatively approved.
So the rest of them were rejected?
Well, we have 13 of those where we're still pending eligibility documentation. And like I mentioned during the committee meeting, that we're working with these students to provide their basic eligibility documents. So we do have 13 that are sitting out there that we can't approve yet because they have to submit additional documents.
Thank you.
So Ms. Gordon, with that, we will have this pending as an item, an action item to be voted on, to be taken to the board
Yes.
for approval. Okay. What was the goal set for the scholarships?
And that's, I was trying to find the budget, Marcia, if she's going to speak.
I have
to it. Okay.
I have it. It's we're supposed to have 35 for a 4-year institution, and 25 for 2-year institution or vocational, totaling, I think 135. That's I'm looking for the 135,000, I think.
So did you say, I'm sorry, 35 for the 4-year institution?
Correct.
Okay.
And 25. Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at a total of 60 scholarships to distribute.
And so far, out of the applications that were approved, 29 of them are for 4 years. So we're definitely, well, we're under because it was 35, and we have four that are for 2 years. So yeah, I mean, if we could extend the deadline, at least it'll give us an opportunity to gather some more applications. And we've also been reaching out to the high schools in the Ruskin and Plant City area, specifically trying to reach out to those guidance counselors to help the students and inform them of the application and be that gateway for us.
Right. Okay. In the event we get more for one versus the other, what are your recommendations in terms of how do we manage that?
Well,
Vice Chair Henderson, this is Kelly Mistretta. I don't mean to interrupt, but I do
No.
want to make sure that all of you are aware that we have not yet received our fiscal year 21 funding. So, I mean, you can make decisions. I know that when the board originally voted for the budget, they voted based on percentages. So that can be, increased or decreased, of course, and you would have the ability to do a modification in the future if that's what the board chooses. But I just wanted to make sure you're aware that we have not yet received our funding award. So it's hard to make a decision to know if we're going to get more or less. And I just wanted to put that out there for you.
Okay. All righty. So that does, I guess that really makes it, puts us in a little bit of a quandary if we don't know how we should move forward, right?
Anything that any decision you make is based on the estimated budget,
Right.
not on the actual amount. The state had
Okay.
advised that they were hoping to get us our award by the end of last week. We have not
Okay.
yet received it. So
Okay.
everything, I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that everything you decide will be based on the estimated budget.
Estimated budget. Okay.
and,
Thank you
and
very
just
much.
the scholarship applications are first come, first served. So in the case that we do get more than what we can actually fund, if the funding levels change, we would based on the first come, first serve.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Cedano?
I have no other no other questions, and that is the end of my report. That was for the March 8th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cedano. And let me just back up real quick. Were there any questions for Mr. Thomas in the Budget and Finance? I don't think I asked that. Okay, and being that there are none, we will go ahead and move forward. I will yield to Chairman Rosa Hill, who has arrived here safely. We're happy to see you. Ms. Hill, we are at the point of discussing calling on the Nominations and Membership Committee report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for my tardiness. Took that one phone call that threw off everything. Thank you to Mr. Vice Chair for taking over and starting the meeting. For the record, Rosa Hill, Chairperson, Hillsborough County Community Action Board. I have been listening on virtually, so I have heard everything. I just wasn't able to announce myself. Didn't want to cause any traffic incidents, so I tried to arrive safely, make sure everyone else arrived safely to their destination. So I did get to hear all of the statements that were made before. And we're now down to the Nomination and Membership Committee, Ms. Noreen Copeland-Miller.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. The Nominating and Membership Committee did not meet this month. There was no action item. The board is at full capacity. So, and we're in compliance. That ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland-Miller. So we can move back up to, did we leave out anybody? Did everybody else? Okay. So we can move back up to the Executive Committee. And that's myself. The last meeting we had was on February 18th. We really didn't discuss anything that we have not discussed in the full board meeting. So with that, we're moving forward with the agenda. And we're now down to board attendance review.
Madam Chair, before we go there, I do have a question with regards to and I don't know if this will be a fit for the Executive Committee, but with regards to our meeting being a hybrid.
Yes, we actually have that on the agenda a little bit further. We're going to discuss right after this.
Okay.
We'll discuss the quorum process. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Guida, I reviewed your report. Are there any staff or any members of concern right now?
Good afternoon, Ms. Hill. There's still the one member is Ms. Hargret, who staff has sent and tried contacting regarding attending meetings, have not heard back from her. So really at the next meeting with a quorum, depending on how the board would like to decide on how to proceed with that. She has been sent a notice. We haven't had a meeting since then, so it's kind of hard for her to attend the next meeting. So, but that's where we're at. Other than that, everything else I think is moving along properly.
So we have tried to notify her. We have sent her a certified letter, which I signed
Yes.
off on.
Yes.
So if she does not attend the next full board meeting, she will be totally out of compliance.
Correct.
So, are there any comments around that? Any concerns?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we do have one, if she does not attend, we still will be in compliance because we do have one other extra spot for low income, and that person is been seated.
That is correct. That is correct. In that section, we're allowed to have more than our 7, and we actually, I think we have 8 or 9. So yeah, we're absolutely totally fine, depending on how the board would like to proceed.
Mr. Vice Chair, did you have a comment?
No, ma'am. Ms. Copeland-Miller answered that question, and I was going to bring it up with regards to respect to our bylaws. So thank you, Ms. Miller.
So, with the approval of the board, I would like to stay in compliance with how we have our board law, our bylaws written, and how we govern the board. That if she does not attend the next full board meeting, then we would send her notice saying that, thanking her for participating on the board and releasing her from her duties. Okay. All right, moving down to item G, the CAB meeting quorum process. And that report is,
Madam,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I'm sorry. For the standing committee meeting, the Public Information Committee has an agenda for approval in terms of extending the scholarships. I don't want us to not get to that unless you want to do the approvals or items that need to be approved.
Okay,
Later.
how many items that were discussed today that we need to have approved? Just that one, or was it one from you, Mr. Thomas?
It was just that one right now, right?
Madam Chair, yes, there are a couple items that staff brought to our attention during the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I would like to recommend it be summarized in a consent agenda type format regarding closing out the direct services budget for this year. It ends in a few days. And I think that's the only priority that we have regarding budget and finance, to make sure we get that on the record for vote.
Okay, so before we move down on the agenda, I'd like to go ahead and take care of the items that are pending with regards to the Budget and Finance and the Public Information Committee. So, Mr. Thomas, if you would start us off with what it is that you need to have done, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will ask for the staff to chime in as I can just do a quick summary. To my understanding, for the 2020 CSBG budget review, we have some categories where we need to ratify, at least at the executive level, ratify the movement of funds from a couple of categories to make sure that those are on the record, those funds show as expended. So I'd like to defer to Ms. Kelly if she would entertain us to do that.
Good afternoon. I was just trying to get my laptop off of mute. At this time, and this is similar to what we've done in years past, we need to reallocate some of the line items in the direct client assistance to zero them out. This is where it stands today. So you could ratify it today just to know we're going to move these items. And I can give you a final dollar amount at the next monthly meeting if I need to. But at this point in time, we will be moving $5,594 out of the education line to cover the overage amount in self-sufficiency. And then we will be moving $13,023 from the education line to the crisis programs. I did receive an email from the Parks and Recreation Department that there will only be $20 left on their budget line item, so they are able to spend their budget. And we should be receiving, if we have not already received, the final community food pantry invoice. And that will zero out all the line items.
So, Ms. Mastrada, I'm sorry, can you repeat how much is going to crisis?
The crisis will be $13,023.
And both of these moves is coming from the education line item?
Yes, ma'am.
Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding the request on the table?
No, Madam Chair, and if you will allow, I'd like to go ahead and make request a motion or make a motion regarding the ratifying the movement of funds in the amount of $5,594 and approximately in $13,023 to address the crisis and family empowerment shortfalls. And this will result in the entire CSBG budget for the 2020 year to be totally expended.
I second the motion. Noreen, second the motion.
Okay, it's been motioned and second that funds be reallocated $5,594 to FEP and $13,023 to crisis, both line items coming from the education line item. It's been motioned and Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Ms. Cedano, if you would repeat your request for motion, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. To date, the scholarships, the PIC committee have received 46 scholarships out of the 60, and it's a staff recommendation that we extend the application deadline to April 16th so that we could try to get some more applicants to submit their applications, and the ones that are pending, that they submit all their documentation. So the request date from the staff is April 16th. If we can have that extension where, as you know, the deadline was for March 31st.
Madam Chair, Ms. Cedano, if I could, this is William Thomas, if I can ask you to clarify again, I know when we were having some of the committee reviews, we said we have 46 out of 60 applications came in already?
Yes, and 33 were approved, and I think 13 are pending on further documentation that needs to be provided.
Thank you, Ms. Cedano. Madam Chair, this is William Thomas. I'd like to make a motion that we approve extending the application deadline to April 15th based off of the data that Ms. Cedano, Chair of Public Information Committee, has provided. I'm sorry, Ms. Cedano.
Point of clarification.
Yes, point of clarification. Go ahead, Ms. Cedano. I'm sorry.
My apologies. It's April 16th. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you said April 15th, 15, or 16. It could be my over.
Thank you, Ms. Cedano. I'll amend my motion if I'm allowed here to correct the date to April 16th is my motion. Madam Chair.
I second it, Madam Chair. Friday, April 16th.
Sorry. It's been motion and second that the application deadline date be extended from March 31st to Friday, April 16th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Thank you. Okay, so now we're moving down to item G, CAB meeting and quorum process, and the staff is going to give us an update. But before the staff does, I had a discussion with staff regarding, cancellations of meetings and setting a timeline for notifying staff so that everyone is not inconvenienced. I know that we have to pull in a bunch of people to make this process work. So we want to make sure that moving forward, that we have something set, that we know that if one person is not in place within the time that it takes to make this happen, that we're moving correctly on to the next person. Okay, so staff is going to give us a update on the process that needs to take place.
Well, just so speaking with Rosa and discussing it among staff, it seems as though typically towards close to the date of the meeting, we're scrambling to try to get a quorum. So we're discussing a process into establishing a quorum at the full CAB board meeting, just to get a commitment from board members on who can attend in person. And if they could provide, if they fall through by any chance, if there's a scheduling conflict or something comes up where they can't attend, then we have enough time to find a replacement. But typically, ideally, the Monday of the board meeting, we'll want a quorum. And I understand, Rosa, that you're not a big fan of canceling meetings. So would you prefer to move forward in the hybrid fashion, even though there's not a quorum, or at this time provide guidance to the staff on, at that time, if we do not have a quorum, we move forward with a full virtual?
Okay, that is correct. I am not a big fan of canceling meetings. And the reason for that is that we're dealing with public dollars. And I don't want it to ever be perceived that we just canceled, that we didn't make a conscious effort to try to do the best we can. Now, understand, it's a waste of time for everybody to come sit in the meeting if we don't have anything that we can actually discuss or get done. That's not what I want people to do. I want to have a document, a process in place that if this board, excuse me, is ever questioned about why a certain meeting was canceled or why we followed a certain procedure, we have something in place to back us up. That is the goal of asking staff to help us in putting something in place that in the event that we do have to cancel multiple meetings, that we have something. We have something to give the community to say what we're doing and that we are the best stewards that we can be over the money that we have to service them. So Sharon, if you could just tell us, we need to understand, what it takes for communications, because this is a huge piece. This is not just us having a meeting. There's multiple arms to this that have to come together to make it work. And we don't want to inconvenience people, but we don't want the perception that we're not good stewards either. So I'm going to leave it to you, Sharon, you guys at staff to tell us what needs to happen to make the process work. What's the best timeline for canceling? Regardless of who the chair is, we still need something in place to justify what we do with public money.
And I'm going to ask Mr. Guido to chime in on, okay, so moving forward, if we do not establish a quorum, then a certain number of days prior to the actual full board meeting, you'll prefer to move full virtual. Is that correct? Instead of having a hybrid meeting with travel. Okay, so how many days in advance would we need to notify?
Unfortunately, in the past, we've canceled on the day of. I think we can all agree that that's not the best practice. So, I mean, I would assume if we could at least give HGTV and Communications 48 hours notice, I think that would be a little better than 3 or 4 hours notice. But again, it's at the pleasure of the board to kind of help us decide on all that, because there's a lot of moving parts. So fortunately, they've been very flexible and helpful in this process. I think they understand how difficult all this is for everybody. So, but that being said, yeah, I think going forward, if we're going to put a policy in place, as Ms. Hill is requesting staff to do, yeah, I think if 48 hours makes sense, something like that. So that would be the Monday, the Monday, if the meeting's on a Wednesday, the Monday before. I think that would be a good practice, a good policy to create that way. And then, following Ms. Hill's advice or the chair's advice at the time, I'm sorry, Ms. Hill, I know you're the chair, that's why I say your name, whether or not we continue with it being a virtual meeting or a hybrid meeting, depending on the chair's discretion at that time. I think that makes a lot of sense as well.
So hearing the comments from staff, are there any comments from the board members, suggestions? Because we're all traveling. We are all in a different place and we're all volunteering our time and we are all extremely busy and have family obligations and all of those things. So I don't want to, I hate to say waste people's time, but I don't want to have people, they could have been doing something else at the time and we just cancel. And it throws off everybody's schedule. So any comments?
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, someone else chiming in virtually? This is William Town, City Plant City. I agree. I think the process that was taking place last week, one, personally, I like to know what I'm getting into. When we talk about time management in light of what the challenges we're facing, Madam Chair, yes, it's correct. I do think we do need to continue meeting, whether a quorum is met or not. I look at that as a opportunity to hold us accountable, making sure that just because we can't have a quorum doesn't mean we can't discuss issues. Therefore, when a quorum is met, we're not deliberating and maximizing that time. So I'm in total favor of meeting, whether we have a quorum or not, to ensure that this board, showing on the record that we've been able to deliberate and discuss issues and given every opportunity for all the board members to discuss issues or voice their opinions or concerns and represent their respective neighborhoods, so that when we do have that consent agenda or have that time where we do have a quorum, we can move on it. And I think it just works better. I do like the communication, the efforts that were made to note, hey, we have a quorum. These are the individuals that have committed to meeting that quorum. And it's kind of a reminder to me, to be honest with you, holds me personally accountable, where I'm able to say, okay, look, I know there's 3, there's not 4, so I need to make sure that I press my calendar and my time to ensure that I'm here. It is a little discerning when you don't know that there's not going to be a quorum and you come here. I have no problem coming in person, whether we have a quorum or not, but I do like to know what I'm getting into. Therefore, I can prepare myself to have what type of discussion we need to have. But Madam Chair, from what I'm sounding, I'm in total favor of moving ahead based on your recommendations.
Madam Chair, and I do
Yes,
support,
ma'am.
this is Noreen. I do support the fact that you're asking for them to put something in place, and that's best practice. So the 48 hours before, so we know instead of an hour before that it's going to be canceled. So I do support your recommendation that staff put in place, and it's there brought up about the 48 hours because there are a lot of people involved in this process. So it just makes sense that we do have something in place for best practice to make sure that if it's canceled on the timeline, because the timeline was mentioned, and I think it's way beyond time for us to have that in place. So I do support your recommendation.
Madam Chair? Yes, I agree with Mr. Thomas and with what you've presenting. But I do agree with Mr. Thomas that whether we have a quorum or not, that the meeting should go forward. It does show due diligence on behalf of this CAB to at least strive to address the issues that are at hand and be responsible and good stewards of the funding that we're to oversee. A question that I do have is, and I may have missed it along the way here in terms of the requirement for us as a committee to have a face-to-face presence in order to establish a quorum. Could you address that, please?
Yes, and that is on my list, Mr. Vice Chair. If we could move forward with this point, I have your point to address. If we could move forward with this point, Sharon, it's the consensus that 48 hours of having a quorum, that board is notified that it will move virtual. Okay, if we don't have a quorum within 48 hours of the meeting date and time, that we move forward to a virtual. And we still send out the email asking if people can, come or not come. And I'm going to apologize because I went through every email because I have this thing where I check myself first before I check anybody else. And I went through every one of my emails and neglected to see at the bottom of the email where it says, please reply if you're going to be here in person. I took on the assumption that everybody just know if I'm here, I'm gonna be here. And that's not good practice. I should have replied and said, yes, I'm going to physically be in the room. So I am more conscious of that, of reading the emails all the way through to make sure that I address every piece of the email that needs to be addressed. So with that, we're going to move to 48 hours. Within 48 hours of the next meeting, if we don't have a quorum, we will cancel the hybrid meeting and move to virtual. And whether we have a quorum at virtual or not, we still will have the meeting to discuss topics on the table to be discussed. Okay, so everyone clear?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
does this need to be brought to a vote or is it just a procedural change?
I think it's just a procedural change. You can correct me because we don't have anything in place. right now. And I think it's good practice. We need to have some, we've all kind of just not paid attention to it until that one situation happens. But it's something that needs to be in place going forward. So you always have something to back up your decisions, especially with the community. You know, because this is public. We could have had some community people trying to come on and the meeting is canceled. So we just want to make sure we have something that says what we're doing. So I don't think it's a vote, right? It's just a process.
Yeah, it's not a vote. It's not, it'll be documented in the
Okay.
minutes, and that should be enough for us to move on.
Thank you.
Okay. The second thing I have on my list, Sharon, before you move on, is to address Mr. Henderson's question. I did ask staff to make sure they replied to your email, but it's good to bring it up in front of the whole group about the requirements for it to be hybrid for committee meetings. Or is it hybrid just for, does it have to be a quorum? Does it have to be hybrid for the executive committee meetings? Is the question, right, Mr. Henderson? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, correct.
Mr. Thomas had his hand up, so I just wanted to.
If I may, Madam Chairman, just butt in a little bit, for lack of a better word. It's my understanding, after we had the parliamentarian training, Robert Rules of Order, that a quorum is needed for the CAD board and for the executive committee, because to my understanding, outside of the CAB board, the only committee that can vote is executive. I know we were under the presumption that other committees can before, but I knew that was something that was raised during my parliamentarian training, that committees really don't have, according to our bylaws, correct me if I'm wrong, the ability to vote on an issue at a committee meeting. So if that is the case, and staff can correct me if that is the case, then yes, I mean, as things get back to normal, obviously you want to meet in person, but my understanding, the quorum is requirement is only for the executive committee and the community action board committee, the community action board as whole. So I'll leave it open. Staff can correct me.
So the question, if I can chime in, I believe the question is, does that quorum have to be virtual, or does it have, or can it be virtual, or does it have to be hybrid? That's the question.
It has to be hybrid, yes.
And Madam Chair, Ms. Gordon, and that is that through the state, through the county? What creates that requirement?
It starts from the state, from the governor's orders, and then it trickles on down to the county. So yes, we're following the mandate.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, Madam Chair, just want to emphasize and encourage our fellow board members that, you know, while we will require a quorum of 3 to be present at these hybrid meetings, it is just so imperative to have that one additional person in case somebody gets stuck in the rain or gets, you know, caught off guard, has to go to a last minute meeting because of our jobs or what have you. I just want to impress upon our fellow CAB members that, you know, to do whatever you can to try to attend the meetings. Don't leave it at the 3. Let it be 4 or more if we can.
So to the credit of staff, they did at the previous meeting scheduled, they did try. They had that 4th person that had originally committed, and then at the time that they needed the person, they couldn't get in contact with them. So they did everything they could, I think down to like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to try and make it happen. But going with what you said, Mr. Vice Chair, it is important for every board member, or, you know, to make sure that they can try real hard to readjust their schedules. Because it was, I shared with staff this week, it was real challenging for me to do this week because I'm not the only person that puts stuff on my schedule. And if it's not anything there, it's filled. It might be filled with just something really, really simple, but it's filled. So every board member that can, try your best, as Mr. Henderson asked, or Mr. Vice Chair asked, that we try and attend these meetings, especially when they require a quorum. So the third thing I had on my list is the process for moving to the next person. I understand, and I had staff send out the email that I did not respond in time, that in the time frame that they needed. So I want to take responsibility for myself first, that I did not respond in the time frame that they needed to cancel the meeting. So they moved to the next person in the chain of command, meaning Mr. Vice Chair, and he made an executive decision to go ahead and cancel the meeting. So if we could put something in place around that regardless of who's sitting in the chair seat, they understand if they're not responsive in a certain amount of time that it needs. And say, for instance, if you need to call that meeting within 48 hours and there's not, and I'm not responding, or who of the chair is not responding, then you move to the next person. And I say, put something in place so the full board understands this is why that next person made the decision to do what they did. Okay, so what are your suggestions around that?
Well, moving to the next person would be the vice chair, Joey Henderson, according to bylaw. And then we would just go down the chain to, I don't think the bylaws are very clear with who would be after Joey Henderson, is it? I don't have the document.
Well, what time frame? And if we can be a little specific, because I did check myself. And the last email I received was at 4:45 in the evening. Of course, I'm closing out for my day. I'm done. In my mind, I'm done. And I did not respond first thing the next morning, which you guys needed a time frame. You needed an answer, and I did not respond. So with that, what do you need before moving? Because I'm thinking the meeting's going to happen, and then I get a phone call that the meeting is canceled. So that kind of left, caught me off guard. So if I was wrong, or if I was negligent in returning your phone call in a certain amount of time, what is that time frame? What is that window? And if we could be just as close to specific as we can, so there's no confusion moving forward.
And I'm so glad we're discussing this because this definitely will fill in some gaps. So we said 48 hours prior to the board meeting, if we did not have a quorum, we'll cancel. So that's direction to the staff to go ahead, move forward if there's no quorum, to cancel the hybrid meeting and virtual. And we would notify you that that has come, and you'll get the email. And of course, I'll call and leave a message and whatever other modes. And would that be enough?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
just for a point of clarification again, okay, so we're saying 48 hours to cancel a meeting, not if we don't have a quorum. And did I misunderstand that?
So it's 48 hours to cancel hybrid meeting,
The hybrid meeting,
but we would still move virtually.
correct?
Okay, so if we don't have any board members that are going, I'm gonna just throw out an example. If we don't have any board members that are gonna go on virtually, okay,
Right.
then, and the meeting needs to be canceled hypothetically, I'm not in place. What is the time frame that staff needs to contact the next person to say, can you make a decision? Is what I'm trying to get to.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you
If
can
I,
see.
Ms. Miller, one
Yeah.
moment, please, if I may continue. I would think it would be 24 hours notice, but I think staff, you guys do more than just send out an email. You'll also make a call. You'll also send a text, correct?
Yeah, whatever mode that we have to contact a person we'll use on our county equipment. So from the guidance we've received, if we did not have a quorum 48 hours prior to the meeting, that's when our communications team will be contacted, and we'll cancel the hybrid meeting and we'll go full virtual.
Correct.
So, at that time, and of course, we would notify the chair, hey, we do not have a quorum, we'll proceed with canceling the hybrid meeting and going full virtual.
Right, because at this point, then there is no quote unquote canceling of the meeting at all. But in terms of, I think I understand what you're asking is that, when should staff expect a response from you as our chair? Is it within the next?
Is it within the 48 hours? Or right now it's within the 48 hours.
Right.
But let's just move back a little bit. Okay. because we canceled a meeting. We didn't cancel a hybrid meeting. We canceled both a hybrid meeting and a virtual meeting. Okay, see, we didn't have either one. So if we're ever faced with that situation again, where we have to just make a call to say, this can't happen this month, for whatever the reasons are, there's nobody available, which we hope that will never happen. But in the instance that it does, what is the 48 hours, the time that we're going to use to say we're canceling both the hybrid and the virtual meeting? Is that
Yes.
what we're putting in place?
Yes.
Okay.
Will that work for, Madam Chair, will that work for the technical crew in terms of what they have to do? If they're informed within that 48-hour window?
Yes, all of this is taken into consideration, the communications, the HDPD that supports these meetings. So yes, so 48 hours would be ideal.
So the way it would be written and is that if we do not have a quorum within 48 hours of the upcoming meeting, that will be automatically moved to virtual, right? If there's an issue where we cannot have that virtual meeting, then the chair needs to be in place to make a decision within those same 48 hours to say, we're canceling this meeting. If the chair is not in place within those 48 hours to say this, then it moves to the next person being the vice chair. That's what I wanted to say. And if I'm out of order, or if there's any point of clarification, let's make it now.
So, Madam Chair, of that 48 hours, the second day, we still haven't heard from the chairperson sitting in your seat. The question is, when does the staff move to the next person? And I think at that point, we're really running late.
Right. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking the way I just said it, if I'm not in place, and I'm saying me, if I'm not in place, then let's move through the process and automatically contact the next person. Okay? I shouldn't have any, I or any, whoever the board chair is, shouldn't have any discrepancies with that because we have a process in place. Okay? And there's no, misinterpretations, no assumptions. We just follow the process and we go from there. Okay? Is that clear? I feel much more comfortable with some kind of process in place like that.
Madam Chair, you're saying move forward within that first 24 hours of the 48 hours?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yes.
And the reality is that it could conceivably happen again where we may have to cancel it. Hurricane will basically shuts down the city. And I know, like Mr. Thomas over there, he'll be boarding up his house in a minute.
Ms. Hill, both Ms. Noreen Copeland Miller and Maria Gillis have raised their hand.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just letting you know.
Okay. So I think Ms. Copeland Miller was first.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you. From what a point of clarity, and you just kind of cleared that up. So in 48 hours, they would go to the next person. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. If I'm not in place within the 48-hour window or at the 48-hour window, then it moves to the next person to make the decision.
And that makes sense, and that's best practice, and I think that would be great to have in place, so then there's no misunderstanding about moving on to the next person. So I agree with you on that one. Thank you.
Ms. Gillis?
Madam Chair, thank you. And thank you for bringing this up. And not that it's happened too often, but I know that we're discussing the 24 hours or who, when and who to go down the line for answers. If something else were to happen, not just a meeting, there is something that staff needs to discuss with the chair, whoever that may be, and we are unable to communicate with the chair. Is it proper for us to put a procedure in place that within 24 hours of us communicating with the chair, whoever it may be, and staff cannot get an answer from that person, could staff move and per the bylaws go to the next in line to get an answer. It could be for any reason. Maybe DEO needs, some communication, or we need to reach out to another board member for whatever reason. This would give us some direction and a process in place, which it sounds like that's what your goal is for us to have procedures in place.
Yes, ma'am. I do agree that there should be someone in place within, as you say, 24 hours where we have a dire decision that needs to be made, that we move to the next person. But I also want to make sure that we understand that we all have a responsibility to do our due diligence to make sure that we do everything we can to try and contact that board member or the chairperson to make sure. And I say that because I did check myself, and I don't feel like that, everything was done. I did receive a couple of phone calls, but I didn't receive any text messages or voice messages. So I've gone and rectified that on my end to make sure that when someone's calling me from a county building, that it registers on both of my phones, both my personal and my work cell phone, as a county number. Because right now everybody in the city of Tampa calls me because they need housing. So I've gone back and made sure that, when that number shows up on my phone, that I definitely know I need to answer or check for a voicemail. So as long as we understand that prior to moving to the next person, we've done everything we can within those 24 hours to contact the chair that's in place, then I agree with what you're asking. Is there
Thank
any
you, Madam
comment?
Chair. Thank you.
Are there any, you're welcome. Are there any comments from the floor?
Madam Chair, and I totally agree with you. I have always had the county, and particularly Ms. Gillis and Ms. Gordon's number locked into my phone because I'm not quick about answering a call that I don't recognize. So I would recommend that of any of us who are officers of the Community Action Board to go ahead and do that.
Thank you. So Ms. Gillis, you're going to work with Ms. Gordon to put that same, one document that we can share with all of the board members, maybe in the next board packet, that this is the process we're taking as far as communications and how we're going to handle meetings, and the responsibility, and I'm going to say the responsibility of the chair and the vice chair, because I don't see a reason why we should be moving down to anybody else in the line of chain of command beyond the chair and the vice chair. And that will be a document that I think that this board can use, going forward for years to come. And it is all of our responsibilities to see what works and what doesn't work, and be willing to step up to the table and suggest that we make changes so that we could be a more effective board going forward. So Ms. Gordon and Mr. Guida, I would expect that in our next board packet, that we have this document for review for the full board, to know that this is what has been put in place. I'm not asking for any, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not asking for any suggestions of change from the full board. It is a decision that has been made with the executive, amongst the executive committee, and we're going to move forward as stated. We have some, I can't see any.
No problem. I was just, Ms. Copeland Miller has her hand up again.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't know if you can, okay, thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point, and I do hear what Ms. Gillis is saying, and what I do want to say in all fairness, I think that's a great document to have in place, because with the new board members coming on, and we might want to even include that into the orientation process, that they have a point of contact, because from our advisory council, my advisory council member, Dr. Small, was in the county center with county staff trying to find out about the meeting, and they didn't know it had been canceled. So he called me, and I let him know, and then Miss Andrea White, another one of our West Central Region Advisory Council members, got a call, but nobody left a message, so she did not know. So I think that it behooves this entire board to make sure we have that process in place. I can hear what Ms. Gillis is saying about in 24 hours, if there's something urgent with DEO. That's what I was hearing, that she moved to the next person in 24 hours to make that decision. So as a point of clarity, I just wanted to voice my opinion and say that the document is great to have in place. So we're talking about one with 48 hours, and we're talking about action in 24 hours with DEO when they can't get the chair. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. And I don't want to limit it to just DEO. If there's something that needs a decision made, that we cannot move forward, or it's going to hold up a process, as long as staff has done due diligence to contact the chair, then it moves to the next person. And then it will be the responsibility of staff to come back to the chair and let them know, what process took place and the reasons why.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, if we limit it to just DEO, then it's just DEO. And I don't think it'll be effective to put in place if we say just DEO. We'll leave it open to say if there is a major decision to be made or a deadline to be met and the chair is not in place, then they move to the next, being the vice chair, to make the decision. And then circle back to the chair, okay?
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Gordon, do you have anything else?
No, that is it. Thank you very much.
So does this conversation, these decisions being made satisfy what we need to move forward? I'm all about improvements. I'm all about change. I'm all about admitting my downfall after I feel better about it. I'll be honest about that. I just want us to be effective. I want this board to be effective, going forward for years to come. And putting these kinds of things in place, just adds to the quality of what type of board we are, and that we're doing everything that we can to service the residents of Hillsborough County as a whole. So with that,
Madam Chair,
yes, sir.
I just want to say, trust me, we all fall short of the glory of God, but I thought this was a very helpful and productive conversation in terms of making things a little bit better and improving upon our processes. So really appreciate you and appreciate the staff in bringing these issues to us as well.
Thank you. It has definitely been on my mind to make sure that this is one thing that, we discuss today to make sure that going forward, that we move diligently along. So Department of Social Services update, Ms. Ziegler, I know that she was in another meeting. I heard that on the virtual. I'm not sure if she was able to get on. Ms. Ziegler, are you there? Okay, I see her name, but maybe she's not able to, maybe she's not able to come on. So Ms. Gillis, we'll move on to you.
Good afternoon, board, executive board. I just wanted to, again, I mentioned this during Mr. Thomas's budget and finance meeting, but I wanted to tell the executive team that I've been on several calls with BEO in the last couple of weeks, and they have mentioned how many entities, actually all entities except for 3, have not been successful in or have been successful in spending their dollars, their grant dollars, and Hillsborough County was one of them. So I wanted to thank this executive team on the record that thank you for allowing staff to do everything possible to spend these dollars. And again, we were recognized one of 3 entities that have spent their dollars for this past year. So thank you again, and just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Ms. Gillis. Is there any way that Will that be printed anywhere? Will that come out? And I know it's an internal thing, but it's a huge thing. I work with several grantees across the country that cannot meet the requirements of the grant because it takes a lot to do that. And I think it's good for the citizens of Hillsborough County to know that the money was well spent and that we were able to meet the guidelines and expend all of our dollars successfully. You know, even if it goes on the website, and it's good for the board members. It's good morale boosters for the board members to know they're not just coming to sit in a room, you know, or be on a virtual call, that these are the outcomes. You know, I know we say it, but having our colleagues and our coworkers and our friends know it is a good thing. So is there any way we can, you know, make some kind of announcement, put it on the website, something like that, where, you know, everybody knows what a great job we're doing?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not being seen. The state is actually having struggles right now with those other entities, so I doubt that we will get something in writing. What I do plan to do is when we do our closeout report, which is why it's so important that this board voted to do our modification so we can zero out and do our closeout report. What I plan to do is, once we've closed out, is do our budget book again, where it shows all of our accomplishments with the CSBG dollars, and maybe just a line that says that we were successful in zeroing out. But I highly doubt, and Madam Chair, you're probably aware of this too, they're not going to highlight other areas that are not spent. So we're not going to get anything official, but I did want to mention it to this board, and we will do it in our closeout report.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I wasn't expecting, you know, the state to do anything. I do understand how that works. I was thinking more of, you know, in Hillsborough County. And you mentioned putting it in your closeout booklet. I just don't know how many people see that.
Right, and one other thing to mention is Ms. Ziegler. I mentioned the information to Ms. Ziegler, and she did share that information with Mr. Harness and Ms. Wise. So all the way up through the county is aware that we have been successful. And I do plan to mention it at the full board meeting. It's quite an accomplishment that only 3 entities were able to expend their dollars successfully, on time, you know, working with their board. So it is quite an accomplishment, you're right.
Madam Chair. So, Ms. Ziegler, is there a chance that it can be put in social media from Hillsborough County? Or is that?
We could mention that we were successful. We can't mention that others were not successful.
But by saying that we were one of 3, is saying that others were not successful. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Well, we wouldn't say 1 of 3. We would say that Hillsborough County Community Action Board was able to meet all of the guidelines, close out, expend all of their funding required for it. It never even says anything about the other people.
Right.
That's exactly, Madam Chair, that's exactly the way the approach that I was going to try to take, that we were successful and show all of our accomplishments.
And Madam Chair, I think that will be awesome if something is put out there in the public's eye, and where the public is, which is in these days, social media, they seems to be the go-to location. And I know that it's something that I'll be sharing back at my office, so they know that I'm not just spinning my wheels with Hillsborough County. We're actually making a difference in the lives of people and working with a good staff that's making a difference as well.
Yeah, I agree, because I get asked all the time, what are y'all doing over there? And I won't say who asked me that, but if you know the person, you know just the way I said it, who it was. So I would love to have something to just say, what are we doing? You know, and I know it comes out once a year, but I get asked every other month. So that was my reason for asking if it could come out, you know, in some kind of form, just in Hillsborough County, that we are a great board and we're doing awesome things in this county. So
I hear you, Madam Chair. I will tell you that it was a very proud moment to be on that call and them talking about, how other entities are scrambling and how their expenditure rate, is off and all of these different things. And then, crickets for Hillsborough County because we've spent our dollars. So it was quite a great call to be on.
Congratulations.
great, and congratulations to not only just the board, but to staff, because staff, does all of the behind the door work, make it happen, the everyday. And we really appreciate you guys and everything you do, because it's not just the board, it's also the staff, which is the left arm of the board. So thank you guys so much. Ms. Gillis, if you don't have anything further, we'll move to Ms. Gordon.
Only one thing additional, Madam Chair, is request that we add our elections for our executive team is coming up now in May. I know it sounds far away, but due to these virtual meetings and the struggles that we're having to get a quorum and everything, I was thinking maybe if we could add it to our next agenda so we can start moving that process along, because it does take a couple of months.
Yes, ma'am. I don't see any reason why we should not add that to the next agenda.
Thank you. That's all.
Ms. Gordon?
I do not have anything else to add. I did want to state that Jennifer Anderson, she planned to attend in person. However, she called me and she had a family emergency, which turns out to be good news. And she'll announce that when she's able to attend in person again, or however she attends. However, the Planning and Evaluation Committee, they will be next month. There was several scheduling conflicts, so we couldn't get a meeting in for March. However, the main areas to discuss are we have several funding requests from different agencies. We actually have six agencies that are interested in funding through the Community Action Board. But given that we do not have a contract at this time, we still have time to discuss those items to know exactly how much funding we'll have for partnership opportunities. So.
And just for the record, I have advised Ms. Gordon that when proposals or requests for funding come in, whether they come in to me or to any of the board members, that we make sure that those go to staff and they follow the process that we have in place of being vetted through the Planning and Evaluation Committee. Because some people request just to come straight to the board meeting. No, we have a process in place. And we want to follow the process where they go through the Planning and Evaluation Committee, and the Planning and Evaluation Committee comes back to say whether this is appropriate to come before the board or not, and we go from there. Okay, so let's just make sure that regardless of who sends us a proposal, that we channel those back through staff. Okay. So so we are down to the good of the order. Are there anything from anyone on the virtual that anybody would like to bring up for the good of the order?
Madam Chair, this is
Yes,
Noreen.
ma'am.
I just want to say congratulations to the staff for a job well done. And because I know they've been up against the wall with a lot of things, but they still made it happen. And I want to congratulate the board members for their part in meeting the grant for 2020 and 2021. But congratulations, job well done, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any for the good of the order from anyone in the room?
Madam Chair, just real fast, and this will be on the main agenda for the next board meeting. The Community Action Partnership is having their annual hybrid event in September 1st through September 3rd in Boston. So it'll be a hybrid event, so it'll also be virtual. So we'll make that known to the board, so the members can decide on if they would like to attend with your approval. And then also NAFCAF is having their having another virtual event September 27th and 28th in the afternoon. And then, so they're doing like a Monday, Tuesday thing. And then they're doing the following Monday, Tuesday, October 4th and October 5th in the afternoon on the Monday, and then a full fly-in day, they're calling it on the Tuesday. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up that that'll be on the next agenda, that those kind of next kind of conferences that are being planned at this time.
And what are the dates for the Boston conference? Because I did get an email about that already directly from the source.
Sure, it's September 1st through September 3rd, 2021. So
Thank you. Mr.
Madam
Henderson?
Question?
I'm sorry, Ms. Copeland Miller, are you speaking?
Yes, I wanted to ask one question. I wanted to ask Derek a question. Are we doing anything with the Florida Community Action? Or do we still, or their conference usually comes up in May? Are they doing anything virtual or?
I'm actually going to defer to Ms. Gordon. I know that there were some discussions on how they wanted to proceed, and I think they were sending out surveys, trying to gather information from the agencies on how they were going to do, if they were going to do a hybrid or a virtual event. I haven't heard anything recently, and I'm not sure if they have a date. You are absolutely correct. It normally is in May. Obviously, last year was a little different, but I'm going to defer to Ms. Gordon to see if she has any updates. I have not heard of any lately.
The conference committee, the FACA conference committee are still planning, so I will have an update during the next board meeting in April.
So, Ms. Gordon, they haven't decided on a date yet?
I don't want to, I'll gather more
It's
information.
not firm yet. It's not,
Yeah,
that's fine. It's
right.
okay. I don't think it is either. I just wasn't sure.
Provide any misinformation.
Sure.
So I will provide an update during the next board meeting. If I have anything prior to then we could send something through email.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Henderson, did you have something? No? I thought I saw you press your button. I'm sorry. Is there anyone else for?
Well, Madam Chair, actually, I do want to thank staff for forwarding my report from NCAP. It was overdue, but I had it started and I never finished it. But hopefully staff, my fellow CAB members saw some things in there that would encourage them to participate in the next conference that comes up.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Hillsborough County Office of Emergency Management. We had an opportunity to partner with the county to provide vaccines in the community of Beesville, way over in the eastern part of the universe, way over there, within stone's throw of Polk County. And we were able to get almost 400 individuals vaccinated through February to March. So again, a nice shout out to Trey Lawson. I'm sure they reflect on the minister and that staff there for a job well done, and thanks for the inclusion. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, so if there's nothing else to be discussed, it is 1:28 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.